for tuning into this First Alert Weather Plus. I'm Audrielle Tackett. Let's talk about what is on the way for the rest of this week as we have the inversion setup that's lasted for several days now. We are not expecting it to leave just quite yet. We still have high pressure locked in over the western United States. That inversion, the fog, the clouds, all of that is making the skies a little bit murky. You've probably started to notice those impacts now. It will continue to get worse the longer that the inversion lasts. So dense fog is the main concern in the first half of the day. It did bring us first alert weather conditions Wednesday morning and will do so Thursday morning as well, because the fog is worse in the early morning hours before it burns off, before some of that sunshine comes through. But here's a look at this high pressure. As you can see, it's a big, broad ridge. It's going to continue to grow, engulfing more of the central states in the U.S. But for the northwest, it is bringing us stagnant air. We need a stagnant air advisory issued by the National Weather Service because of this high pressure that's keeping things so quiet. So you can see all the way up to northern Idaho impacted, portions of Washington and Oregon impacted as well. Now, not everywhere has an inversion, but here in southwest Idaho and the western half of the Snake River Plain, we do have an inversion. So temperatures increase with height. Mountains typically seeing those warmer temperatures or quicker increase in temperatures than the valleys are seeing. Valleys are seeing very stagnant conditions throughout the week, where our early mornings have been in the 20s and our afternoons have been in the upper 30s, low 40s, with very little movement day to day. So if we look at Tuesday's high temperatures across the northwest, you can see that the western half of the Snake River Plain, Treasure Valley, Magic Valley, was in the 40s. West Central Mountains was in the 30s, and then the Central Mountains made it to the 50s. Haley, Sun Valley area making it to 52 degrees, so more than 20 degrees above average there. If we look over toward Oregon, temperatures do range a little bit more, especially as we get further closer to the northwest coast, because there's more movement in the atmosphere there with the Pacific Ocean creating winds and just a little bit more mixing in our skies there. So temperatures not as stagnant there, but looking at southwest Idaho, you can see temperatures stay very still. And then we jump to forecast high temperatures by the end of this week. They're looking to be in the similar range of temperatures. So still upper 30s, low 40s for Twin Falls and Boise, 30s for the West Central Mountains again. So you can just see that there's very little movement for southern Idaho this week because of that inversion. Meanwhile, there is some change throughout the next several days for portions of Oregon and Washington. Now, we can see on our upper level pattern here, this is showing this high pressure that's dominating the northwest and the west coast in general. It is going to continue to sit in place for at least another week. It does move around a little bit, but that ridge in general stays in place until the beginning of next week, when we start to see a low pressure system approaching from the west. This is our first sign of a switch up that is to come. It's on the way, not here yet, but that's our first sign of it in the following week ahead of us in January. By the time we get to the middle of next week, which is about January 21st, January 22nd, you can see that that low pressure system does start to approach the western coast of the U.S., and that is when we're hoping that this will break up that inversion. It'll bring some winds, it'll bring some cooler air, anything to kind of switch up that trend of inversion that we see right now and that we're living through right now. You can see our 10-day temperature trend. These are low temperatures, so typically in the early morning stays very stagnant for most of the week ahead until the middle of next week, when we do see that system approaching the western coast. That hopefully is breaking things up, and then you can tell that our temperatures are starting to fluctuate a little bit as that inversion and that stagnant air is broken up. But for the time being, as I mentioned, Wednesday morning and Thursday morning have brought first alert conditions, specifically because of the dense fog. We've had visibility down to less than a quarter of a mile. That is a pattern that could continue for the rest of this week, because the longer an inversion lasts, the more impacts it has. So if the fog is starting to get bad now on Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, even Saturday and Sunday into the weekend, that fog could linger a longer amount of time each day. Typically, the sunlight breaks it up a little bit in the afternoons, but if the inversion is acting like a lid and blocking our sunlight, then it's not going to break up that fog fog as much. So plan for extra commute times over the next several days to close out this work week. We're saying drive low and slow, meaning use your low beams. You don't want to use high beams because those high beams can reflect off of the water droplets within fog. And then drive slow just because the fog reduces visibility, as I mentioned, and can cause extra hazards on the road. So just drive with care and exit the house with care in general this week. We have a futurecast for fog. It's a little bit harder to predict where fog will develop specifically, but looking at Wednesday evening, you can see that we start to see some impacts in terms of visibility by 8 p.m. or so. So normally 10 miles of visibility is considered completely clear. We're seeing down to 60-70% amount of full visibility across the Treasure Valley. It does worsen as we get into the late overnight hours. So this is just after midnight. You can see we're down to less than half a mile of visibility in portions of the Treasure Valley, especially the lower Treasure Valley, which is a little bit more sheltered than the upper Treasure Valley, such as Mountain Home, which still has about 70% of visibility. But that visibility continues to be worsened all the way through those morning hours. So commutes to work likely impacted in the earlier time of the day rather than your commute home in the afternoon. This is Thursday now at about 10 a.m. Still with that visibility less than 50% or less than a mile of visibility even. So potentially it is sticking around worse and worse over the next couple of days. You may need to give yourself a little bit more and more time on the roads as the week progresses and the longer that this inversion lasts. Something else that is a little bit of concern with inversions is going to be the air quality. Now, we have so far seen moderate levels of air quality over the past couple of days. It has been fluctuating between good and moderate. Good is where we want to be, but moderate levels of air quality is when extremely sensitive people, such as respiratory issues, need to continue to check those air qualities, be careful with moderate levels. By the time we get to orange levels, which is unhealthy for some, that's including older groups, children as well. And when we get to unhealthy levels, the red color, that is when it's unhealthy for everyone. You can always check air quality conditions at deq.idaho.gov or airnow.gov. They have up-to-date air quality conditions at any given time, so you can check that continuously through the week and into the beginning of next week as this inversion lasts and continues to make our skies just a little bit murky. Twin Falls has seen a little bit more warmth than Boise has seen over the past few days, and that's because they are higher in elevation, so temperatures and sunshine warm up a little bit more easily there. So low to mid 40s for Twin Falls in the afternoons over the next week, but Boise going to see a little bit cooler temperatures bouncing around between the upper 30s and the low 40s for the next week ahead. Again, first alert weather conditions for Wednesday and Thursday morning. Because of that dense fog, it may potentially linger all the way through the weekend. We'll continue to stay up to date and keep you posted on how this inversion plays out. Looks like it will stick around for at least another week ahead. Thanks so much for tuning into this First Alert Weather Plus forecast. We'll catch you next time.